Hi everybody, it's Eric Murray from the SugarHuddle.com. Well, we didn't think Thursday night's game between the 49ers and the Raiders would be a very good one, even if it was close. In this case, it was a blowout. Even though the 49ers were favored at home on a short week, nobody expected them to win 34-3. The craziest part about it, of course, is that there was a quarterback from Southern Miss who wore number 4 who lit it up for the 49ers. And, of course, for 49ers fans, you remember that number 4 former Southern Miss signal caller being Brett Favre. In this case, it's their own guy, Nick Mullins, who they brought in as an undrafted free agent back in 2017. Mullins is a guy that had been cut a couple times, been relegated to practice squad a couple times. He was their third-string quarterback. But, of course, he was upgraded to their backup after the Jimmy Garoppolo injury earlier in the season. And, of course, because C.J. Beathard, what was the current starter, went down with a hand injury, played all of last week, but ended up injuring his hand and couldn't play this game because it was such a short week. Nick Mullins, who's never thrown a pass in his NFL career in the regular season, was thrust in the starting lineup. And so all of a sudden you thought, well, maybe the Raiders, their terrible defense, is actually going to look good in fantasy this week because we don't know anything about Mullins. We don't know if he can be any good. He was very shoddy in the preseason when he got his opportunities. And this guy goes out and he lights it up, 260 yards, 16 of 22, 3 touchdowns. And for Raiders fans, you know, you're playing a team that's equally terrible to you, and you get just annihilated 34-3. Final battle of the Bay Area as the Raiders move to Vegas in a couple of years. Just a horrible outing if you're Oakland, and it's kind of felt like a lot of the players quit by halftime. John Gruden, like he's been a few times this year, completely dumbfounded and disgusted and just didn't have any answers. But yeah, you know, Oakland, their opening drive did real well, and they ended up kicking a field goal. And then from there, I mean, the 49ers just went into overdrive. Nick Mullins, I mean, right from the get-go, he looked very, very confident, not intimidated, not overcome by the emotions of the moment. His first NFL game. And, you know, he's a guy that it's been said by his teammates that last year, or actually even this year as well, he would take the play sheets after the game and would, like, run the plays out on the field, you know, after the game or what have you, by himself, you know, just practicing. So he's kind of eccentric, you know, a little bit like a Daniel Day-Lewis or Robert De Niro preparing for a big role, but that's what you need. You know, that's what you need to be a great quarterback. And, you know, the guy's an undrafted free agent, so he needs to get a leg up or advantage any way he can, and you can tell the preparation definitely helped him. You know, Kyle Shanahan's done a great job developing quarterbacks, and even C.J. Beathard's played pretty good this year when he doesn't turn over. The problem is he turns it over a lot, and that's why they've been losing games. But they snapped this losing streak, and really it was a 6-game losing streak, and really, really nice win for them, improved them 2-7. But yeah, you know, from the beginning, Mullins really came out, played great. George Kittle, their tight end, who's played well all year, he's well on his way to a Pro Bowl at 4 catches, 108 yards, and a touchdown this one. But yeah, they went up 17-3 by half. Second half, things didn't get better for the Raiders, who'd given up 4 sacks in the first half. And Mullins continued to lay it up. Him and Kittle connected on a 71-yarder where Kittle one-handed it in a very tight window and split two defenders, and then ended up getting a 71-yard gain, set up a touchdown reception for him a couple plays later. Then Raheem Mostert with that 52-yard touchdown run right after, where he easily won the battle to the corner of the near sideline and kind of zigzagged his way into the end zone, pretty much untouched. So just an unbelievable all-around team effort, and defensively, San Francisco had 8 sacks, and they're not this big force pass rush-wise. I mean, they've had some sacks, and their defensive linemen are really developing, looking pretty good, especially DeForest Buckner, who's been established for a little while now. But, I mean, the Raiders' offensive line, they made the Niners' pass rush look like the 85 Bears' legendary 46 defense. I mean, that's how bad it was. They sacked Derek Carr 7 times, and they also had a garbage time sack later on against A.J. McCarron, so 8 total sacks. Unbelievable. On the other side of it, not surprisingly, the Raiders, no pass rush since the Khalil Mack trade. No sacks in this game. Didn't even hardly touch Mullins. So, you know, San Francisco, yeah, they lose a few points as far as getting credit because they were playing the Raiders, but nonetheless, this is a tremendous effort by them, and especially Mullins. Great game for him. And on the other side of it, you know, Derek Carr Actually, same exact stat line as far as completions and attempts, 16 of 22, just like Mullins. But in his case, just 171 yards and no scores, also no turnovers like Mullins. He actually played pretty good, but the problem is he was on his back the entire time. He was trying to run away from pressure whenever he could, and the entire offensive line looked horrible, and they've been falling apart for a little while now. And Colton Miller, who was their first-round pick, John Gruden's first pick since coming back to the Raiders, they traded down to take him the first round from 10 to 15, but nonetheless, a lot of people thought he was still a big reach at 15, and he's really starting to look like, because he struggled all year, really got exposed quite a bit in this game. And, you know, the Raiders, if they would have drafted, you know, 1 or 2 slots higher, they would have drafted ahead of the Niners, because the Niners actually drafted at 9. They took Mike McGlinchey out of Notre Dame, who played real well in this game, and was definitely much more NFL ready. So maybe if John Gruden had the opportunity to draft McGlinchey, maybe he would have taken him. You know, there's also talks maybe he'd take Roquan Smith. But at any rate, he passed on some other significant defensive players and instead took Miller, and he invested in a lot of offensive guys in this draft. So, you know, he's got 3 first-round picks now ever since that Amari Cooper trade, but it's like, you know, Cooper wasn't really doing much this year, and they didn't really have a whole lot of receiver help to begin with. So it's like Derek Carr, you got no running backs, you got no receivers, no offensive line, and he's still playing pretty darn good. But, you know, John Gruden seems just kind of clueless, and, you know, Gunther, their defense coordinator, I wouldn't be shocked if he's fired today. Technically, I guess it would be. But, yeah, you know, Oakland, this is probably going to be their last year in Oakland. Technically, it was supposed to be last year, but there's some disputes there between the franchise and the city of Oakland, so there's a possibility it might play somewhere random next year. But regardless of whatever the case is, you know, they're trying to kind of gut this team to prepare themselves to become a winner in Las Vegas when they move there in 2020, and I'm not sure they're going to be competitive in 2020, so it might be more of a 2021 situation. So they're in a bad spot, and their only win, of course, even though they put up a lot of points against the Browns, remember there's a lot of controversy in that win over Cleveland, so they could easily be, you know, winless right now, and they're going to have a heck of a time winning any more games the rest of the year. They, you know, they've been competitive in a lot of games and had a lot of halftime leads, but definitely not a fourth-quarter football team by any means. They're just good in little spurts, and defense is horrible. No pass rush in the secondary. You know, back 7 in general, because their linebackers can't cover, you know, just getting picked apart by a third-string quarterback. And, you know, Mullins, I mean, is he Matt Flynn or is he Jimmy Garoppolo? We don't know. We'll see. But in this game, I mean, he looked like Brett Favre. So anyways, yeah, I mean, if you're the Raiders, you know, one of the things that Troy Aikman and Joe Buck pointed out quite a bit throughout the telecast of Thursday night's game is that, you know, you had the whole Dallas Cowboys 1989 trade of Herschel Walker that got all those draft picks that turned out to be a whole lot of great players, and of course they won 3 titles in 4 years soon after. But I'm not trusting that John Gruden can do the same thing that Jimmy Johnson did as far as turning those picks into big-time players, because the moves he's made so far as picking up veteran free agents have been terrible. The trades he's made have been terrible. Their his first round pick already has been terrible. You know, 10-year contracts. The Raiders, of course, are going to commit to him for quite a while, even if it's pretty ugly for a while. But I don't know. I'm not liking what I'm seeing out of the Raiders, because I wasn't really sold on them being a playoff team this year. You know, I think last year they ended up being 6-10. And I thought that they would kind of be in that range. I think I actually picked them to go like 9-7 and barely missed the playoffs. But I was kind of thinking that maybe 6 or 7 wins would be a better prediction. Kind of second guess myself on the 9-7, and even 6 or 7 wins is pretty generous. But nobody saw it like this, 1-7, just a mess. And then for the Niners, you know, you've got the Giants in 10 days, and then you've got a couple weeks before you play the Buccaneers. So you could be getting on track here. So I expect Mullins to start at least 1 or 2 more games, and who knows, maybe he could be a nice trade bait down the road. So maybe the Niners can end the season pretty strong. But anyways, at any rate, those are my thoughts on the Thursday night game, and please go to sugarhuddle.com, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also like my Facebook page, The Sugar Huddle. Thank you.